All right. So today we're starting with React Router. You guys went through several uh, several parts of React components, state, props, passing props, and then also you guys went through the side effects like use effect to kind of manage the API calls, and also you did some styling with Bootstrap and React Strap. So you went through all that. So now your React app is good. I mean, it is, you could build a React app with components and you can style it and all that, but how do you navigate through a React app? Just like we're navigating here, we're just clicking these links right here. So as you can see, how do you navigate through React? So let's just go to the lesson for today. So here it says, due to the insane popularity of JavaScript frameworks and what we call single-page application, SPAs, we rely on our modern browsers today for a lot more than we used to in the past. One of the common trends with SPAs is to see the idea of client-side routing or client-side routing or the browser taking care of the URL history. This module, you'll be guided to intrusives. I don't remember that word. I copied from the React website. So basically what you will learn is intricacies. What you will learn is basically how to create a routing, like navigation with React, basically. That's all you're going to be learning. So at the end of this course, today's lecture, you'll be able to explain the difference between client-side routing and server-side routing, set up routes with React application using router, route, and link components. Use routers, use prompts hook to add dynamic routing to an application. And then also you'll be using this. We might not be using the use router for today's lecture, but I'll show you what it does. And also you'll be using use history hook to programmatically navigate to other routes. So in general, the first part of this, this lesson kind of covers, I'm going to talk about what is basically the old way of doing routing. So as you guys already have seen it, and everybody uses it, when you go into different pages, it renders the whole page. It's basically kind of like deletes everything that you had before and then writes something new, and that's called server-side rendering. So that's what server-side rendering is. It's basically right now here. So example right here, or let's go to the Gibi School website for more context, just to show you how that looks like. So we have this page now. This is a page that rendered, but if we go to the course, let me actually just slow it down for a second. So to slow down, we're just gonna go here and we're gonna say use the slower 3G. Okay. So now what it's gonna do is it's gonna render, but it's gonna go really slower, and you're gonna see how it's going to render the other page, but it's going to paint. And if you had, there's something called caching. Caching is basically it takes care of it. The browser grabs all the images that you're going to use again, and then it renders those images quicker. So as you can see, let's go to course. So now, I mean, it went really fast, but the main thing is, let me just go back here. Okay, let's go to here, 3G, slow 3G. Let's go to about. As you can see, it's loading. So now what it's doing is it's basically painting this whole page one pixel at a time, basically. It's grabbing the text, it's grabbing the colors, it's grabbing the, if we have any image, this image, and it's basically painting over it. Okay. If you could mute, guys, that would be great. It's basically painting this whole page again. And what it's doing is it's grabbing the HTML, the text, the images, everything from the server. It's basically sending a request of everything that you see here. And if we go back to course, that's basically what it's doing. It's sending another request again to the server, and it's saying, okay, grab me these texts. And now if we go back to about, the browser already forgot that we already sent a request earlier, and now it's going to send another request. So now we click this, it's going to send another request again. So that's not efficient at all, especially if you have hundreds of thousands of links and things like that. You want things to render faster. So let's compare that to my other website right here. This website is built with React. So I built with React, something called Next.js. What it does is it goes to the server, it grabs everything it needs on the first try, on the first time you come to the website, and then after that, it doesn't go back to the server. And if you go to, for example, about, it just quickly, like, it just shows you that it doesn't go back to the server. So if you click here, pricing, it's like instant. So if you go to home, it's instant. Get demo is instant. So that instant means it is basically, if you go to contact us, it's basically instant. That means the content of the whole website is already in the browser. You don't need to go back to the server to send another request. We only sent one request. And that's what this graph is showing. If we go back to here, this graph. So this graph is basically saying the traditional way of doing things was you first send an initial request to the server, and then server brings back HTML. And then you send another request, and then it brings back HTML. And then you send another request, it brings back HTML. So it just keeps repeating that. The server has a bunch of HTML for each page, and then it just returns that. But the SPA, the single page applications of the current times, like the one I use for my other website, you send initial request, it sends back the HTML, and that's it. So everything that you see, the images, all that stuff, is rendered one time. That's it. So from the server. From there on, it only sends AJAX requests. AJAX requests are two-way requests, basically. So instead of sending requests one way, the server has an open request, basically. It's saying, okay, I have open port for you. Now you don't have to give me anything. I already know what you need. Just grab what you need. And usually it's a JSON. So usually it's just the content of the page. So that's one way. The other way is grabbing everything at once and not sending any more requests. So the AJAX is one way, and then you get back JSON, which is just JSON is basically object. So you'll get just the content back. So this is kind of like the modern way of doing it. This one here, the one I'm using, is called Next.js. It's a little bit different. So it basically sends, it's called static site generator. So if you go to, you don't have to learn anything about Next.js right now. In the future, you will learn more about it if you want to. So Next.js is a static site generator. Basically, it's built with React, and you could build really fast websites with it. You don't have to kind of render anything again. So you render it first time, and then after that, there's no rendering. All right. So that is the difference between server-side routing and if you hear server-side routing, it's the traditional way we do things. Like here on my website, if you click this, it just takes its time and it grabs everything from even the HTML from the server. The client-side routing is the one I just showed you. Is the instant is using React and basically making sure that you only send one request to the server, and then when you get back everything, you only change the page according like if statements. Basically, you say, okay, if the title, if the router, if the route of the website is equal to this, change it to this. If it's equal to this, change it to this. So it's instant. Basically, it's just like your local basically HTML file. Basically, that's what it is. So that's what we're gonna learn today. That's what we're gonna cover today. Let's see. Let me start. I already started a project, and it's right here. This is how it looks. Let's close this. We don't need this. This is how it looks. The project for today is a shopping website, and it doesn't have links now. We can add the links. It has this page with just an image and that. And this is how the code looks like. We have a app.js, which has basically a nav right here. And this nav is right here. This nav has just this text and give you products, and it's going to have the links here. We're also rendering this component home from here. So this component home has basically an image, which is right here. And this image I grabbed it from Unsplash. And it also has a button right here, but this button doesn't do anything right now. So we're gonna make it dynamic so that it goes to the shopping page. We have a couple other components. We have item, which renders each item or each product. And we also have item list, which shows all the products on the list. And also we have data, which is just basically all the products that we're going to be using. It has a name, ID, price, image, which I grabbed from Uncommon Goods. It has a description and a shopping. We're not going to be using this shopping, but we're going to be using the description. And then after that, you have a couple of them. So you have about 10 of them or 11. So that's what we have. You guys already know how to import data from like another file. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to import that data. So this is our steps. Import the data. We're going to import React Router, and that's what we have to install that. We don't have it yet in our package.json. We don't have React Router DOM. We have React DOM, but we don't have React Router DOM. We have to import the components, the item and the item list, these to show here, basically to connect them to the navigation. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to go over each one of them step by step. All right. So the first thing to know is, what is React Router DOM? Okay, React Router DOM. So React Router DOM right here. So React Router DOM is, let's see if we can find a description of it. Even if we go to the website, I don't think we can find a description here. It's kind of hard sometimes. They should make it obvious. What is React Router DOM? So React Router DOM, it contains a DOM binding for React Router. In other words, the router components for websites, React Router native, it contains React native binding for. So there's two types. There's React Router DOM and there's React Router native. The DOM one is designed for the browser, so that's what you're going to be using. So that's what it is. It's basically a component or a package that was created to manage the routing of your website, basically the different links of your website. So we're going to install it first. Let's go back to our editor. Let's go here. And we're going to go to the link we went earlier, which was here, npm. And that's what we're going to be using. npm install React Router DOM. Okay. So install. So first thing we need to do when we install it is we need to connect it to we need to wrap the React Router DOM on top of all our components. So all our components come under the app.js, but then app.js goes in the index.js right here, as you can see. I removed the strict stuff that we had before. But so this is our app.js basically. So we have to wrap app.js. We have to wrap React components, and then basically our whole website is wrapped around the routing system of React. So to do that, we have to import React router DOM. You could, so if we're importing, if we go to here, we have to import the, let's see, basic, not basic. Let's go to quick start. So when we install it, then if we want to use it, we have to use we could use the browser router. That's the name of it, browser router. But you could just say browser router as a router, and then you could use that router, right? So that's how we can do it. So let's go to here and say browser router as router, right? So this is basically saying, okay, instead of us keep repeating browser router, we could just say this browser router from React router DOM. Okay, we could say that. We don't have to say React router DOM as a router, but this is the kind of like the traditional way of doing it. So we're gonna say that, and then right here we're gonna just wrap the router around the app.js. That's all we're gonna do. So right here we're just gonna say router and grab this one and put it behind here. So we're just gonna do that and then comma here. So now if we save it and we go back to our app, nothing happens here. It's still the same. So now we have that. From here, we could just use React router DOM. So that's the first step is to do that. So we're gonna say first, we will say we're gonna say put app.js component inside React router DOM. Okay, that's the first step to do all this. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay, so let's go back. We can exit this. We don't need it anymore. We go to app.js, and now we could start importing things. We're gonna start with importing the data. So we're gonna say import. We're gonna say import data from data right here. And the reason for that is data is default export. So it's right here. And we could call it whatever we want. Right now, it doesn't have a name here. You could call it whatever you want here. So when you import it, you can name it anything. So we could just say products here if we want. Right. So we could say that, but we're going to use products for this state. So we're going to say data. So when we do that, we could import the router, all that. But before we do that, let's import let's make a state first before we do all that. So this is, we're going to skip to 3 here. I'm not actually numbering these because we can skip around. So let's say constant, we're going to say products, set products is equal to use state. We have to import that. Okay, it's automatically imported, or was it already imported? Okay, I think it was already imported. And then here we're going to put data, right? And that's the data we just imported. So now if we console log the products, you'll see that it has all the data products. Save, and we go here, inspect, console log. We have a couple of errors here. Did we save it? Okay, we have a couple of errors. It's not allowing us to do this. These errors are fine. You shouldn't have an issue with it. Use state products. Did I get anything wrong here? Okay. Use state set products. Okay. Maybe I should restart the server. So let's restart the server. Okay. VM start. Let's put it right here. Inspect console right there. So as you can see, we have all the arrays, 12 of them. These are all the products. All right. So now we have that. We have all the products. We can get started and import the other items, the other things that we need to import. So basically, we need to import these items, but we're not importing as a component, just like the home. We don't want to import the home as just a component. We want to make sure we can navigate to it. So we're going to be using React router DOM. So let's import that first. So you're going to say here import, and these are named. So React route, link, and a switch. Those are the ones we're going to import from React router DOM, and these are named imports. So what do these do? The switch and what do they do? So the first one is, let's say, the link. Okay, so the link provides declarative accessible navigation around your application. So this is how it looks as a syntax. You say link with capital L, and then you say to. So it's basically just like the A tag, the anchor tag of the link that you usually use. But this one, you're going to be using link, the name link. And we're going to be importing that right here, link. And we're going to import route and also a switch from React router DOM. React router DOM. Okay. So we're going to import that. So that's what the link can do. Is basically a way to tell React, here's where you need to go. But you cannot use just the link. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by you cannot just use the link. So let's actually create a link, 2 links. So the first link would be the home, and the second one would be the shop. So let's create a link here. Let's say 2. So the first one, we're gonna say just only slash. That means just this is the home, and then we're gonna say this is gonna be home. The second link would be the shop. So we're gonna say link, capital L, 2, and this is gonna say slash. We're gonna say here slash product list. Let's say that. You could say shop if you want. You could say whatever you want here. So let's say shop. So now if we save and we go back to our app, as you can see, we have 2 links here. So we have the shop, which takes us to product list, and we have a home. If you click any of them, nothing works. It changes here in the URL right here, but nothing changes here. So if you want to use link and you want it to be kind of like useful, you need to use a route with it. So route will make sure it will check the link. So basically what route does is it goes to the link and it says, okay, does the link here, the slash product list, does it match with what I have? So let's see how route looks like as a, let's see how it looks like the syntax. So a route looks like this. So this is how it looks like. So there's different ways. So this one is showing a route to slash news. So this is the path slash news. Let me zoom that in. Slash news, this could be our shop. But what it does is it says, okay, is there any link where it says slash news? So this route is basically an if statement. So it says if there is any link where it says the slash news, then render this. So this would be a component, right? So it says render that. So we're going to use that. So let's actually get rid of this home and use the route instead. So right outside of the nav, we're going to say route, and then we're going to say path, And the first one we're going to use is going to be the home. So we're just going to say, so this one is the slash. So it's going to check if there's any link that matches with this, then render whatever that we want to render. So here we're just going to say component is equal to home, right? So that's one way of declaring route. So now if we save and we go back to our app, we're going to have the same thing. The reason for that is route basically checked if any of these links match with this, and then it rendered. So it basically rendered the component home. If we change this to something else, it's going to show an error. It's going to show an error. It's going to say we don't know what that is. So you have to match it with the component that we imported from here. So that's what it's doing. The next route we're going to create is a shop one. So if you have a link, you have to have a route with it. Otherwise, it will not work. Route. We're going to say path is equal to, of course, same thing. You're going to say product list. And then after that, we're just going to say here component. And we didn't import the component product list, items list. So we're just going to do it right now. It's probably going to import for us. So we're going to say items list. Okay, slash. It didn't import for us, so we have to import ourselves. So here we're going to import. We're going to import items list from components, and then items list, right? So now our application has an error, and that's coming from items list. The reason for that items list that is giving us that error is because it's expecting a prop that's called items, right? It's expecting a prop called items, and we don't have that yet. And actually, this prop I'm going to be calling it products. So I already changed it. So it's expecting this prop, but if we kind of like ignore this part and we comment it out, let's comment it out and render it. It's still showing an issue because we're doing it wrong. Let's just can we comment it out? No, we can't. So let's get rid of it for now. Just for now. We're gonna undo it. So save, it's gonna show, but we're gonna undo it. But let's just render a H3 products here. Right? If we say products here, and we go here, it shows here. See, products here. We go home, it gets rid of that. So there's nothing. If you go to shop, it shows product list, and it shows here products here. Now, okay, so now let's render. Let's basically render the products. So we have this. It's going to give us an error. That's because this prop, we didn't pass this prop. One thing to keep in mind is that we cannot pass a prop like this, right? Right now, our component is like this. So there's no way to pass a prop. So we have to go back to the way that we saw here, where it shows the route, and then there's inside it, there's a component, and then the closing route, right? We have to go that way to pass any prop. And we're going to be passing the state. So that's the data that we're looking for. So we're just going to get rid of this. And right here, we're going to say, we're going to close the route. Okay. I'm going to close it here. And here we're going to render the items list. We're going to give it a prop called products. And we're going to set that to the state, which is products. Right. So hopefully you guys understand what I mean by that. You can ask me questions. You can stop me anytime. We're taking products and we're passing it to this component, which is right here. We're passing as a prop, but we're also using route So we're basically saying route is basically asking, is there any link that matches with /products list? Yes, we have that. It's right here. And then it says, when you click that, then render this. That's basically what it's saying. So it says route is an if statement. So if we go back to our product, we have products here. And here we have, okay, let's see. What is the problem coming from? Items list. Product is not defined. Okay, which we did. Oh, props. It's props. Okay, so you have to do this. We have to destructure it, right? Products equal to props. Destruction. Okay, so these are our products. They already designed and everything. But the problem now is it's showing the home and the product at the same time. If you click home, it shows home by itself. But if you click products, it still shows home. And that's where the problem comes. We need to show only the products and we need to show only the home separately. Any questions? I think someone wanted to ask a question.
The product list, when you linked it, and then the router of the path product list kind of, can you explain like how does that inflict to the?
So okay, so product list. Okay, so right here, this is a component. This is our component. This component. We're saying pass a prop called products, and you could call this whatever you want. We could say, let's say here product list. Okay, so let's say that. But if we call that, we have to go to items list, and we have to change this to products list, right? So let's copy that and go back to here, and this is the prop we passed. So we have to change that, and we have to change it here, and that's how it's gonna show, right? So and this product is the state. So let me draw on that.
Okay.
Hopefully that makes sense. So this product is the state product. It's this one. This product list is just a name that we created ourselves to pass to the next component, which is this. We're taking this, we're passing it here to items list. So and this has all the data from the state, which is the data, which is the products, the one I showed you as a I show you in the console log. So that's how it's all connected. But here the route. Let me erase this so I can draw more. Let me explain the route so you guys understand a little bit. Today the lesson is the route. So now this route is saying, okay, I have something called products list. Now, is there any link? So this is the link. Is there any link that has exactly product list? So it goes, it searches all the links. It says, okay, which one has the /products list? Oh, this one. Okay, now if anyone clicks that one, then render this part, this component. That's basically what it's saying. And then when we render this, we go all the way to the other component. So we just grab the other component to the products list. So that's what we're doing. So we grab this one, and this is what renders. And this one basically says, okay, I'm waiting for a prop. So this is the prop. I'm waiting for props. One of my props is called products list. Do you have it? If you don't have it, I'm going to show an error and say, I don't have the data. If you have it, I'm going to map over it. So it's going to go map, and then it's just going to render that. It's going to say, okay, an image here. The image URL is this. The image alt is this. The product name is this, and the product price is this. And that's what it's going to show. Yeah. So that makes, hopefully that makes sense. Now everything is shown, but the problem is a couple of things. We cannot click any of the products and show details. The home page and the shop product list is shown at the same time, which we do not want. So we want to move on from the home page and move to the shop. To do that, there's different ways of doing it. One of the ways is we can use something called exact. So exact, you put it right inside the route, the word exact. Exact, basically you're saying, find me the only render when the path or the link, the URL matches with this exactly. So remove everything else. So now if we save it, as you can see, now we're in the product list. If we go to home, you only see home. We go to product list, you see product list. That's one way of rendering it. And this works fine for now. But later when we have, we need to create a link for each of these products, then you have to keep using exact everywhere. And sometimes you might forget, sometimes it might work for use. If you have about like 20 plus URLs or links, then it becomes kind of a headache. So the new way of doing this, this is by using something called a switch. So switch is right here. The switch is, it's a method that makes sure it only renders the first item. So here's a switch. So let's go back here. Where's the switch? Switch. I saw somewhere. So you could just search this, say, switch right here. So a switch renders the first child. Remember how we used the query selector? So query selector, when you use for a list of things, it only renders the first one. It's just like that. So switch renders only the first route. So it only goes and grabs the first route it sees. If the first route matches with whatever you have over here, then it renders that. If it doesn't match, it just keeps going. Another thing about switch is you have to move the routes that are generic. So now if we actually use a switch now, let's actually bring it in, and you have to wrap it around the routes like this, right? So on routes go inside the switch. So now switch, what it's going to do is it's going to check. So when you click any of the links, it's going to check, oh, is that link here? If it's not here, then if it's not the first one, I'm not going to render it. That's what it's going to say. So now if we go back to our app, we saved it, we go to shop, it's not going to show. Shop is not showing. Although it's shown here, it's not showing. The reason for that is, as you can see here, home, if you go to home is a slash, right? So it's our link slash. But if you go to shop, it also has a slash. So you can see here, slash. So now switch, what it does is it says, hey, oh, I found the slash that you're looking for, which is this. So I'm just going to render that. I'm going to forget the rest of this. So to avoid that, you have to move the routes that are less specific to the bottom, right? So we're going to copy this and move it to the bottom, so that when a switch kind of goes through the routes, if you choose this one, it's going to say, oh, I'm looking for something that matches with this, instead of just that slash, right? So now if we save it, you could see we could render shop, we could render home, and then shop. So switch, what it does, it only checks the first one. And if the link that you're looking for matches the first one, it says, hey, I found it. If it doesn't, then it goes down, but it checks only this part. So it checks all this part. But let's say you're looking for a home, then it says, oh, there's no just a slash here. There's a slash, there's not just a slash. So I'm just gonna render. So it says I'm gonna render the slash actually. So it's just gonna render the slash. You're looking for a slash? Oh, I found a slash and it's right here. But you're looking for a slash products list? Hey, I found a slash products list right here. So that's what it does. So even if you have more routes, let's say you have another route that has like products list slash item slash /5 for the IP, then If you're looking for this ID, it's going to check all this. If you're looking for only products list, it's going to check only this part. If you're looking for just a slash, it's just going to check only that slash, right? So that's how a switch works when it comes to routes. Any question about switch? Okay. So now we have two routes, two links. The next step would be to render the products, each one at a time, and that is by item. But before we do that, let's work on the home, which has a shop link and it's not pointing to anywhere. So let's fix that. So the home is right here, this component. We're going to use something called use history to create a link to the shop. So what is use history? Let's go back here. Let's find use history. History. So basically, history is a it's actually been used for a while, since the beginning of like React routes. Let's see. So is that actually the one we're using? No, that's not the one. This one is a normal history. We're looking for a use history, which is a hook right here. So they're kind of connected, they're kind of related, but history, the one I just showed you, is kind of like the parent of use history. So use history actually kind of uses parts of history. So use history is the actual hook, and it gives you access to the history, right? So it gives you access to history, the one we just saw, history instant that you may be able to use to navigate. So it grabs something from history and it gives you that. So what it does is it's a hook, and you could push routes to it. So you could just say, okay, you give a link, and then it takes you to that link, basically, right? So that's what we're going to use. We're just going to use exactly like this thing. So this is exact syntax that we're going to use. So let's import that. Import use history, and from now that, I don't know what that is, from the React router down. Okay. So now here, inside here, we're gonna declare history. So you're just gonna save the function, the use history function, inside a variable to start with. So let's say history is equal to use history, and as you can see, it is a function like that. Now we're gonna create a function, small function, this one, and we're gonna put the history that push inside it, so that we can basically send the navigation to shop, the shopping list. Excuse me. So I'm going to create that function. All right, let's create that. So, okay. So we can use a normal function, or we could use an arrow function. So let's use arrow function. We're going to say constant. We're going to call it route to shop. It's going to be equal to the, we're going to give it a parameter, which is, let's say, event. This is going to be an arrow function. So I'm going to open it. And then after that, we're going to say history dot, which is this one, dot push. And then we're going to push this to, product list. I think that's what it is. If you go back to here, we call it product list. All right. So now we're going to use this function to create a click function. On click. So here we're going to say on click is equal to that function. So route to shop, and save it. And now if we go back to our app and we click this shop button, it's going to send us to /products list. And this will not work if we don't have all this set up. If we don't have the products list, this links and all this set up. especially the route. If we don't have the route set up, that will not work. The push history will not work. So that link works for us. That's good. So we're gonna take a quick break, and then after that, we're gonna work on the items, each item.
So the use history. This you say this is the history that routes the DOM.
Yeah. So
Route.
it uses, okay, so it uses history. Actually, let's go to history itself, so you understand how that works. So the term history and the history object is a documentation refers to history package. It's a package which has two major dependencies of React Router, which provides several different, okay. So all this is basically saying it's giving us a lot of capabilities. So some of the things that history has is all these methods, and it's part of the React Router. So it has the length, all this action location. Location basically gives you the URL. So location, let's say path name would be something like history here. It gives you search. So you could create a query string, which is like you could search something inside a page. There's also push, which is a function that pushes a new entry into the history stack. So within the browser, basically, if you go back here and you go back and forth, there's a stack, there's a list of things. So basically what you're doing is you're taking the link, this link that we created, and you're pushing it to the stack, saying, okay, put this in the list of the things that you could go back to. So now if we go back here and we go say back, it's going to go back to here. And if we say move forward, it's going to go to shop. And that's what this is doing basically. So we're basically saying, take this item and make it part of the things that you could go back and forth. Let's actually console log history so you can see exactly what it brings. Let's say console log. Let's say here history, and say / history. Save it. Let's go back here. Console, as you can see here, is an object. History is an object. If we move it up a little bit, and if we open it, as you can see, it gives you a lot of options. So these options are things like going back and forth. So as you can see, just like we did here, so back and forth. So it gives you that. So go back, go forward. If you open go forward, it gives you a lot more information here, but it also has the push. Another thing it has is the location. The location is where you're at right now. So which page are you at right now? So now we're at the / here. And also gives you the push function, which has a couple of products, a couple of properties. But this push function basically adds a element to the stack of the lists of things that you could go back to. So I can show you, and hopefully, the list of things that are in the stack of the history, the browser. So let's see, there is a way to see that. I'm gonna go, let's go to here so you guys can see exactly, show the stack of history browser, browser back and forth, okay, forward, let's say. So there is a way to show. I remember I showed one time. So the history API, let's go to here. To move forward. So this is the things you could do with the history. You can move forward by using this function, backward, backward and forward. But we're looking for the stack. So let's just say look for stack here. So you can determine the number of pages in the history stack by looking at the value of length property. Okay, so we can check how many things are there in the stack. So let's use that, and let's put it right here. So let's kind of let's cancel out that. So if we go here, it's the last one. So as you can see, 36 things are in here. And if we hover over it like this, as you see all this. So these are the things that are in this stack. I'm not sure if we could rename this, but it shows what we need. So 36 things. And also if we go forward, you can see there's one here forward. I'm not sure if we could count this. No, this is not 36, but if you see full history, as you can see, it shows my normal history, but this is kind of like the browser history. So the history we're talking about is just the normal browser history, but we could go back and forth using this use history. Hopefully that makes sense. Any questions so far about what we did? Yeah.
Question.
Go ahead.
If you go back to the item list,
Uh-huh.
I see there's line 11 dot map. So normally is it works this router works with the dot map to loop through that housing?
So the dot map is we're mapping over the products that we passed. So from here, the app.js, we imported the data, right, from this data. And then we took this data, let me just draw it so it's easier. We took this data, and we put it right there, right, in this state. And now this data is this products. But we need to send it to another component, which is items list. So to do that, we have to pass it as a prop. So we have to pass it as a prop. So we passed it, let me just scroll through down. We passed it right here. So let me draw that again. So this is the data that we have, and we passed it here in products. And then this product goes right there in items list. So we send it to items list, basically. We're saying here's all the data that we have, take the data. And we call that data product list, right? So products, that's what we called it. So if we go to items list, which is a component, you will see that we're using products list. So right here, we're using products list. Let me erase that. We're using products list to map over, right? So, and that data, I think I showed you, it was a list of items, and it was an array of objects. So that's why we're mapping over it. It's not connected to the routes, right? It's not connected to the routes. I don't know why my Zoom is saying participants can see the screen now, but yeah, so it's not connected to the routes, it's connected to props. So how we pass props down to other components. Any questions? And then all this stuff right here is, if you see anything with curly brackets, is coming from the map. So we're using item, which is each item in our products, and we're saying, okay, grab as the URL for the image, and the image, the item name, grab as the item name here, and grab as the price. That's what we're saying. And that's how we're showing this products. So this is the image, this is the item name, and this is the price. Any questions?
So, and the app.js.
Yeah.
So you know how the switch that you kind of bring it down to like the component home. So you send like it will only look the first child, the beginning, and then if it doesn't find the product list of that, and then it will just render it.
Yeah. So switch, what it does is switch checks only the first route. Okay. So the first route, this route, and then it says, okay, the link that you're looking for, does this link match with the one we have here? If it matches, it shows you the component. So it basically allows this route to render, right? And this route renders the items list, which is a component. If you go to home, which is just a slash, it says, okay, what is home? What is the link for home? It is just a slash. And then it says, okay, does this path contain a slash? And it says, yes, it contains a slash. It's right here. Now render home. That's what it does basically. So it renders home, which is this component right here. It renders the route that contains the home component, basically. Right. So a switch is basically like, remember how like back in the days, people used to switch boards, like the telephone switchboard. So it's just like that. So you cannot have two things at the same time in the telephone switch. You have to have only like one switch at a time. I mean, they advanced, but at the beginning, I'm talking about you only like, yeah, like you only insert one line, and then the person talks, and then you remove it out, you insert the other person's line, and that person talks. So that's just like that. That's where the idea, quote unquote, came from. It's basically you're only using one route at a time. Any questions? I think so far you guys getting the idea, but it takes practice. All this stuff takes practice. Nothing comes easy. It's all about, you have to do the work, you have to do the assignment, you have to think about it. You have to kind of like try different things, see how those stuff work. Does it render? Does it not render? When I was learning this, we didn't have the switch. When I was learning React, we didn't have to switch. So we had exact right here. And that's what we used. And now, you know, when I'm teaching you guys, I had to go to the website and see that the modern way of doing things is the switch, not the exact. So that's why I'm teaching you the switch. Especially for larger applications, a switch comes in handy. But yeah, we'll take a break, and then we will tackle item, and we can render the items here. So I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. All right. So Maghrib is in a little bit for us. So we might take another break in a little bit. Couple of minutes, inshallah. Okay, so let's see what do we have here. So now the only thing left is just the link. I hope you guys can hear me. What's left is the link for the products, and we can tackle that. So I don't know if we can tackle it before Maghrib. We have about like maybe about 7-8 minutes left. So let's see what we can do, and then after that, I will take about 5-6 minutes or 7-minute break. We'll take 7-minute break, and then we'll finish it up. So let's do that. So to basically create a link for the item product, we have to create a route for it, right? You cannot use any link. You cannot use any link without a route. And we keep our routes here. So we don't want to separate our routes to different components. So that's what we need to do. So let's put another route here for the products list for each product. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put here route, and then we're gonna make the path equal to product list, which would we have already? I mean, slash product list, and then slash in here, we're gonna put the reason why we're trying to grab each item is not the reason. How we want to grab it is we want to have here products list slash we want to have like 2. So that would be the item information. And then we want to have something like detail or description after that. So if we enter that, nothing happens because there's no route, there's no link for it. So this is what we need to have. To have the ID, we need to generate the IDs dynamically, right? So if we go back to item here, I kind of commented out everything, but we need to generate each of these items dynamically. And if we go to data, you see each item has an ID. So you need to find something that's unique for each item, and then use that as a way to separate from other products. So you don't want to have 2 products having the same URL. You want to have each product to have its unique URL, right? So to do that, we're going to use something that you haven't seen before. So this would be, we're going to say slash, we're going to say product ID, right? Not slash, column. We're going to say column product ID. So that basically tells, let's close this. So we're going to close it exactly like we close the other ones. And here we're going to put inside the item. We're going to import the item first. Import items. Just item from components slash item. So we're going to import that, and we're just going to put the component right here. So we're going to say item. We're just going to do that for now. Okay. So right now, what we're saying is this is going to be the ID, and this is how you declare all the time. And you could call this whatever you want. You could just, a lot of times you will see this as an like ID. I think in your assignment, you see this as an ID like that. So just make sure anything that goes after the columns is it's an ID basically. So you could name whatever you want, but it has to be unique. And this is just the name of it. So this is not the actual ID. So we're going to create that in the item. But we have to pass the products, right? Because we need to find each item, and we need to find the information for that item specifically. So let's pass this. We could call it product list if we want, just like the item. So let's call it product list because it's all the products that we're passing right now. So, and this is the state products. Okay, this might confuse you a little bit, but we're sending the same thing we send to items list to item, which is this component right here. Okay, so that's what we did right now. So if we do that, as you can see now, the ID that we entered here renders, but there's nothing in item, right? There's nothing in item. If we go to item, everything's commented out. If we put here a H2, something like that, this is one item. We do that, as you can see, it renders this as one item, right? Because we're not rendering anything right now. That's why it's not showing anything. So if we go back to, if we go here, item, it's giving us a lot of instructions. The first one, it says we need to use something called use prompts. And I think it's a maghrib time for us. So we have to use something called use prompts. And what is use prompts? So let's actually find what it is. What is use prompts? It says is a hook. So it's right here. Use prompts returns an object of key value pair of URL parameters. Use it as an access to match the prompts of the current URL, current route. So use prompts, what it does, it creates a key value pair, just an object from this. So it takes this and it gives you the actual value of that, right? It gives you the actual value. So this one would be one time it would be 2, the other time it would be like 4, one time it would be 5, depending on which product we clicked on, right? So this would be the value, and the key would be product ID, right? So that's what we're going to use. So let's import that.
So basically, it'll give you a specific, that value of the key whenever you clicked it, and it will just keep changing it.
Yeah. So every time you click a different product, so if you go to shop, click a different product, it will give you a different number. It will give you the same key. It will give you the same key, which is product ID, but it will give you different a number for each one of them. So we can console log it so you guys can see. So it's use params, and then that comes from React router down. React router down. So now here we will be declaring, just like use history, we'll be declaring use params. So we say let's call it params equal to use params function. Now, if we console log this, console log params, let's give it a name. Params, save it, inspect. Okay, let's refresh it. Yeah, we have to click one of the, we have to put an ID here, because right now we're not using the params. We're not in this item component. So let's put something like 2 here. As you can see, params gives us the product ID, which is the name that we gave here, product ID, and it gives us the actual value, which is in here in the URL. So this would be the ID, right? So that's what params gives us. It gives us this ID. That's basically what it does. So now we need to compare. We need to find each product. So each product, we need to find the information for it. So as you can see here, if I uncomment this, we have something called shop item. We could call it whatever we want. So this will be the item, the specific item we click. But we need to render that using comparing the ID that comes from the use param and the ID that we passed through the prop here. So the ID we passed through the prop. So we need to compare those two. So we will do that, and we're gonna go to a break. So we're gonna do this. So we're gonna use a method called find, which is similar to like map, or you guys learned for each and all that. We're gonna use that method to find by comparing item.id, which is the ID that we passed from the state right here, from the product state, and the ID that is right here. So when we do /2, the ID is right here. We're gonna compare those two, and if those match, then we say, okay, give me all of the product that matches with that, and then we're gonna render that product right here. That's what we're gonna do. So let's take about a 7-minute break, and then we're gonna go pray. And then after that, for some of you, you don't have to pray, so you could take a break. Yeah, you're in another state. So let's take actually 7-minute break, inshallah. We'll be back.
19 because you don't have any done here.
Okay, is everyone back? Hopefully everyone's back. Let me see. I think everyone's here. A few people are from Minnesota, so it would be good. All right, let's get started. Let's continue where we stopped. Hope you guys can hear me. So what were we saying? Okay, so we were using the use prompts to render. So now we need to use the find method to render the item that we need to render here. So we have a lot of items. So this component, the job of this component is to render one item at a time. So in that case, we need to render here. So, okay. So if we go to items list right here, we first have to actually go to items list. So I think we skipped one step because we have to find, here's the thing. So remember how we have here route, right? We have a route. So each route has to have a link, right? So how is it going to check if there's anything here when we don't have any link, right? And how do we find the link? How do we find the link? The link is, each product is a link. So we have to click it, and then it's going to take us to the details, right? So we have to do something here in product list or items list to render a link, right? So let's do that. So to render a link, we need to render, as you can see here, use the link to create a link for each product. So we have to import the link here. Import link. It's the same one that we use in the app.js. So import link from React router DOM, which we've been using all day. Now we're gonna go inside the map, right? Because we want to render, we want to click the image or the title, which is this one. Here's the name of the product, which is that one. That's the name of the product, and this is the image. So we need to click any of them, and then it takes us to the details for the product. So let's use that. Let's use the link. So here we're gonna say link, and we're gonna say to, and we're gonna do that. So in here, we need to create the link. So remember, the route checks this link. So it checks this link. So we need to create the same thing, but dynamically. Okay. So items list. So same thing, but dynamically. So how do we do that? First, we need to put this in a template literal, because we're going to be using some JavaScript inside it. So we're going to say slash product list, which is the same thing right here. So it's going to check that. And then after that, we're going to say, here, products list, we're going to say slash, but here we're going to put the dynamic ID. So each product has an ID, right? and then that ID is dynamically generated. So we're gonna put it right here. So we're gonna say item, just like this one, item.id, right? So that is going to generate each product ID automatically, and we also have to close the link. So let's close that too. So let's close it here. It's going to give us the closing link, and let's put it right after the title, which is right here. I'm going to put it right here. Okay. So when we save that, now when we click any of the products, so let's click this one. As you can see, it's generating the ID right here. So if we go back and we click another one, it's giving us 5 automatically, and it's automatically generating the ID for us. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Did anyone miss what I did right there? Anyone missed it? So right here, the to is basically saying it's just same as this shop, right? Same as this shop, but now we're putting something dynamic after it. So we're saying ID here, right? And that will be ID for each product. But this ID is dynamic now. When we go to product list or item list, it's dynamic because we're mapping over. We put in the URL inside the map, and it's giving us each item's ID one at a time. All right, so we have that. So it's working. Everything's working here. It's taking us to the component, which is this, but this is not generating anything because it's not showing any of the items. So there's no shop item, so it doesn't know which product to show right now, right? It doesn't know which product to show. I can just show you example, like just say H2 item here. So let's say that the save, it's gonna say, oh, actually we have to comment out all this because it's not rendering. So comment that out. Item here, to go back to shop and click any of them, it says item here. All right, okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if that confuses you on anything. Right now, the reason why it's showing all these errors is because it doesn't know what shop item is. Where is shop item coming from? That's not a variable that I know of anywhere. So what we need to do is we need to create a method that is find, and we need to compare two things. We need to compare the ID that we got from this passing props, and compare it to the use prompts ID, which is, we're going to call it prompts that instead of item ID, it's going to be this. It's going to be product ID. So this is going to be product ID. And we have to write exactly like it's written here. Okay, so let's do that. Let's create that method. So we say constant shop item, which is the one we're looking for, is equal to. So now we're going to use that method find, and let's actually look at that method and what it does. So let's see, find JavaScript right here. So find is part of like the map, the for each, all that stuff. So basically what it does is the find method returns a value of the first element. So this is important. First element in a provided array that satisfies the provided testing function. In this example right here, it's saying you have an array, and we're basically saying find array any of these items that is greater than 10. So greater than 10. Then it goes and it finds the first one that's greater than 10, which is 12. It's right here. So it rents us 12. So we just say, you give it an array, you say array.find, and then this is callback function, normal callback function. And then here we're basically saying a argument, basically say an element that's greater than 10, and then that's what it finds. So that's what we're going to use here in our method here. So in our props right here, we have product lists. So that's what we're mapping over. So product list here. So product list dot find, and then we're just going to use a normal callback function, and we're just going to say here we're going to say return. So in here we're going to give this I'm going to say product. Let's say that, and then we're going to create a kind of like a conditional. So we're going to say so we can make it this one line by using just the arrow function, or we could just use normal like this function. So let's say here we're going to say product dot ID is equal, and we're going to use triple equal because we want to make sure that the two IDs are exact the same. So make sure you do triple equal, and we're going to say here proms, which is this dot product ID, exactly like that. So we're comparing the ID from the product list, which is the data, which is the state, our state. I think someone's it's not muted. Can hear. So which is our state, and we're comparing our state dot ID, which is this. So that's the ID for each product, right? Compare that to proms dot product ID, which is the ID that we see here in the URL, right? So that's what we're saying. So then it returns the product that matches with this condition. And if we save now, we have product list is not defined, or we have to say props, right? Props dot product list, because it comes from the props. And then we have expected. Okay, so yeah, I think we have to say return here. Okay. We have issue here. It says cannot find the image URL undefined. Okay, image URL, and it's in the data here. So this image URL. So let's go back here. Of undefined shop item image URL. Okay, so maybe we haven't find an ID that matches with that. So let's go back here to all the item list, and it's giving us the same thing. So the reason why it's giving us the first one, it's not because something is wrong with the image. It's just that it didn't find. So I think something is wrong with our equation. And yeah, go ahead.
Already, is products list of props already?
Yeah. So products list is props. So if we go back to here, we're passing it to item, the component item. We're using product list. But I know where the problem is coming from, and I can show you guys where the problem is coming from. Let's console log proms again, and I'll show you where that problem is coming from. Let's console log this proms. Let's inspect. Hopefully we see it here. We cannot see it here, so we have to comment out this part. That's giving us error. Let's see, comment out that part. Oh, I think I got it wrong. We have to put the comment right here. Okay. Now we see prompts, but do you see something is off with this? What do you see? What do you see? Something is wrong with that. Why can't we not compare? So let me actually console log product. Let me console log. Let's console log here. This is the props. So let's console log props dot product list dot maybe ID. Hopefully that will render for us. No, because we have to loop through it. So let's just say that, just one. Let's compare this ID right here, product ID, to one of the IDs of the products. So this is ID and this is an ID. What's the difference? Can we compare a string number to a number?
No.
No, right? Because we're using
No.
triple equal, and it's checking the type and it's checking the value, right? Both is checking. So that's why we have an issue, and it's not showing any product, is because this is a string and this is a number. So to make this a number, we will use a method called number, and we'll just wrap around it, and that will make it a number. So now if we uncomment this, and you could use other methods. So there's the parse int. You could use that too. And as you can see, the product renders. If we go to shop, we click any product, it renders because it shows the ID here and it shows the product. Any product, right? That's because we already entered the information for this product. The image, we entered the price and all that stuff, and also the description. Any question of what I just did here and any of the things that we did? Because now we can render the product, we could see the details, we could navigate through the application. We go to shop, we could go to home, we can click here and it goes to the products, and click here, it goes to here.
So do you have to do that comparison every time?
You have to do what?
The comparing the ID, the product ID, and the other one. Every time you're doing it, you have to do the compare.
So here, the product ID that we're comparing here is because we want to find each product by itself, right? There's different ways of doing this. We can pass the products from items list to item. Like that's one thing you guys already did too. So we could do that too, but we're trying to use prompts, which is a grabbing the ID at the top of the URL. It helps us grab that, so you're going to be using that. It makes your life easier instead of passing the products through items list, and then inside items list, then we're going to use we're going to import the item, and then we're going to pass the each item's information to item, and then we're going to render here. That's one way of using it too. One way of showing the item. This is another way too. This is basically you just do it one time, and then each time you find each time you go to the browser changes here. When we change this number to like 8, the product changes. When we change it to 9, the product changes. All the information change basically. 10, same thing. 0, same thing. So 0 is the first one, right? So that's what use prompt is doing. Prompts. It's checking it's comparing basically. This method is comparing the use prompts to our props, and it's saying, okay, does the ID in basically the URL match with the product, the props ID. So the ID we pass through the props, right? Does that make sense? Let me know if you have any question. Let me know if anything doesn't make any sense to you. Okay. Hopefully that makes some sense, and maybe when you practice more, it will help you understand more. But
One
yeah,
more
go ahead.
question, man.
Yeah.
Can you go scroll up a little bit on the top page? Yeah. So every time you're doing this, you have to get you have to import the reactive router down for all this, each
Yes.
item.
Yeah. So React, all these are part of the React router DOM. They use they use history, they use prompts. They're part of React router DOM. So right here, use prompts. We also use history is part of this. So they're all part of that. And you have to bring it as a package. So just like that right here, bring as package. So you say npm install React router DOM, just like this, React dash router dash DOM. And then after that, the first step is to put it right here. So you have to wrap it around the app. And don't forget that comma, because you want to separate these two. And also bring it here, import it here as a browser router as router. This is as thing is basically renaming this. So you just finding a different name. So you can name whatever here, whatever you want. But this, you cannot rename this. You cannot use whatever you want here. This is the actual name, and this is your name. It's like alias. Any questions? Okay, so we don't have a lot of time. So now we're gonna go to the assignment and go through that and show you there's small difference between what we learned today and the assignment. So if we go to all the way at the bottom, hopefully we didn't miss anything here. We used to use history, all that. Let's go to here. So your assignment, it's going to be a little bit different. So keep that in mind. You have to kind of think outside the box. You're going to be using something called server.js. This is a node thing. So when you install this, so let me actually show you how to install it. Basically, we're not going to do any work, but we're just going to install it. So I'm going to use my terminal. Can I get a new terminal? No. Okay, let me just get rid of this. Control C. So here we're gonna cd back, and here we're gonna say git clone. So when we get it, we say cd let's cd to it, cd react. So what is it called? Build react. Okay, yeah. Build, and then code dot. That's gonna open this for us. So as you can see, it's not the typical structure that you're used to when it comes to React. So the client is your app, is the front end. So the client is the front end. This is where you're gonna work. But you also have this server thing. So this server is the backend. So it's a backend that runs in your computer. So this is Node, basically. This is what you're gonna learn later. And this is creating the API. So you create an API in your local computer, and you don't have to do anything here. All you have to do is we have to do the npm install to start with, npm install, and you have to do npm install here, and also you have to cd into client and then do npm install. So you have to do 2 times. So we did npm install now. What did it do here? It did okay. I guess it installed package. We don't even have many packages. So now I don't see any node. Yeah, it's right there, node module. Okay, so now you have to say npm start here, and it's not going to do anything. So it's just going to say, hey, server listening to port 500. That means this is your endpoint. Your endpoint is 500, it's a local host, columns 500 is your endpoint. And here are your APIs. This is where you're going to get your data from. So you're going to go to localhost. So we're going to go to localhost 5000, not 3000, /API /movies. And right here is that. So this is /movies. So this is all your movies. And the movies is just this data. But this is how you're gonna call the API, and you're gonna use a use effect, which already is set up for you. So if you go to app.js, the use effect and the movie is already set up for you. so if we go to that, it's not going to show anything here other than just this data of the movies. And this is just a JSON, okay? So if you want to test your API, so there's different APIs here. It might be a little bit overwhelming, but there's different APIs. All you have to know is you have a couple of APIs. You have /API/movies, /API/movies/ID, which is one movie, basically. That's one movie. And then you have this post, which is a sending, if you want to add movie to the list of the movies, right? So that's why we have the server, because you can add movies to it. And that will be like a challenge, like a stretch. If you do it, that's great. If you don't do it, we can do it together, but try your best to add movie to it. Other than that, you get in all the movies, and then you're making sure you can click a movie, and then it shows the details of that movie by itself. If you want to test your APIs here, you can use something called Postman, which is right here, Postman. Postman is an application that you can download. It's free. Basically, I think I showed you before, but you could test your API. Basically, if it's working, what is it returning? What is it? Can you send something to it? So you could actually use post you cannot use a post in browser. You could use the get. Sometimes you will get the data. Sometimes you might not get. So if we say /1, you get that information for the first movie. But if you try to use a post, you cannot, because you cannot change the get. Browser only does the get. It just grabs the information. So if you want to test out the post, use the Postman. So now we say here post, and we change here to http:/localhost 5000/API/movies. I think that's what it is. So this is our post, okay, /movies. So now if we want to post a movie, we need to use the same style like that. You can leave the ID because the ID is automatically generated. And then after that, you could just go to here. We're going to go to Batty here, which is a way to kind of send. If you go to raw, Batty raw, you could do a JSON right here. So JSON information. So we could do that and then paste it here. So now we have to kind of like modify this. I'm not sure if you guys can see it clearly. Let me zoom it in. We have to modify this data because it's a JSON. So you have to, each one of them, we have to put a quote around it like that. The name, the key, and the name. And here, I think you have to put double quotes around it. I'm not sure. Sometimes sometimes Postman works with one quote, sometimes it doesn't. So do that, and then this. So some of the data is required, some of the data is not required. You kind of have to figure that out. But this is a extra that you could go for it. So I think we could just not add this. And then let's change the name. So we're gonna say this, the lecture, let's say. Now, if we send it, hopefully this works. So 5000 local, so we misspelled the local. Localhost 5000/API.
Is it 2- after HTTP?
Oh yeah, 2-. You're right. So if something is wrong, it's going to give you an error. But now, as you can see, this is all the movies. The first one is that. So if you don't add the ID, it's just going to add to the last one, hopefully. So the last one is this. It's the one we added. Okay, it didn't add. Okay, comma clip. Let's remove that. This JSON is a little bit too strict. All right, let's see. should add the last one. So let's actually add what they're asking us here. So maybe this is required. It's been a while since I tested this. So let's do that. Let's change a little bit of these, whatever you want to change it to. Okay, and let's send it. So it didn't send for us, did it? Not sure. So basically the post is to send the data to the movies. I'm missing something, that's why it's not letting me. So one of the things you need to do is you could go to the README and it will give you how to send the data, okay? So that's one thing that we haven't read. So it'll probably tell you how to send the data if you wanna do the ad. So let's see, save movies functionality. Save movies, okay. So functionality to save movies, you will need to, okay, it's not the save, it's the add. Okay. Three factors, try, and add functionality. Okay, add functionality. When user clicks on the add, okay, movie list, you should take into there, see the details of selected movie. Okay, save that. Wrap your app around the router. Okay, so all this is great, but let's go to here. Let's go to app.js. So everything is saved. There has to be some information here. If there's not, then I'm gonna modify it to change that. And as you can see, I already did most of the work for you. So all you have to do now is work with the router. So this assignment, the main focus is changing the route basically so that when you click a movie, it takes you to a specific movie. So let's see, save list. It's not a save list. So you have to kind of create your own functionality for the ad. I'll modify some of the information so that you guys have specific steps to follow when you add in. But so when you do that, so when you have this started, as you can see, this is working now. It's started. Keep this going, and then go to open another terminal, and then cd into the client, right? And then here you have to say npm install because it's a completely different app, right? So now that's going to install, and then after that you're going to say npm start separately. So these are two separate things. The server is your actual server, and this one is your app. So npm start. That's going to go to here. And as you can see, this is what it has. So home, nothing works. So you have to show the movies, all that stuff. That's your job. And then click the movie, and then it takes you to a specific movie and all the good stuff, right? So that's your job. I'll do a little bit of changes to it, especially specifically how to add movie, but I'll give you those changes before the night ends or before tomorrow, I don't know, like in the morning, if I can do it tonight. Any questions so far? Any questions about the assignment, about the what we did?
So the server and the client are two different.
It's completely two different things. Yes.
Two different things.
Yeah. So the server, this is Node.js, right? So we basically using something called Express. And as you can see here in packages here, we say require instead of import. So you guys are gonna learn this later. Don't have to worry about what this looks like and what it does. All you need is your API. That's all you're looking for. And then you just say npm install, npm start, and then the server starts. While the server is going, you go to your client, you cd enter your client, and then you say npm install, npm start, then you start working on your application and reading the instructions for each section. Right? Okay. Any other questions?
What are we gonna do with the API in the server? We're gonna send it the data to the
So you're grabbing the data from the server. So this is one way of grabbing it here. So you're using Axios to get the data here, the movies, and also if you go to specifically, I think movie list, not movie list, movie card, movies. So movies also, you can see you're getting a specific movie here from the API. So that's the server, and this will not work if your server is not on. So if you don't have it open somewhere else and running like this, it should say server listening to port 5000. It has to say that. If it's not saying that, your app will not even work because you cannot call the API. It's not even working at all, right? And if we go to the browser and go to localhost 5000, it should say server is running. I mean, it says that, but add slash the end, no, really. It shows here. So actually console logs. So we go to the console log, it should say somewhere here, or this console log. It's not talking about that one. So server is a little bit different. The console log is talking about is this console log here. The terminal is the console log. The reason for that is because Node.js is not related to the browser. It doesn't care anything about the browser. So don't worry about what it's going on here. All you need is you need to make sure that you're hitting these APIs. Any questions? All right. I'll make a few changes to this and I will let you guys know. But make sure tomorrow you spend enough time with it. Make sure you ask questions if you're stuck, but spend time and try to understand what is going on. Try to read as much as you can. That will help you a lot. So keep it up and I'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Take care.